welcome to the Sunday edition of the 4-Star Chicago Sports Podcast. We're going to take you down an early morning Sunday drive, so grab your cup of coffee. We're going to get into the Bears just a little bit here. Maybe touch on the oldest rivalry in sports, the Jayhawks and the Missouri Tigers. We'll get back to that later. I'm just kidding, guys. But we do have the Bears in the Bay, and we're looking for something that hasn't happened, Kyle, in 1,076 days. The Bears' last road win was December 26, 2001, a 25-24 victory over the Seattle Seahawks, and it came on a Nick Foles 2-point conversion to Damiere Byrd with 1:01 left to put the Bears ahead. So
that's just Sunday, right?
That's just Sunday, correct.
Yeah.
That's just on Sunday. Something that hasn't happened in 3 years for the Bears is a Sunday afternoon win. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to make one quick correction. On Saturday, or on Wednesday, excuse me, I was wrong on the splits. I said them reverse. I said Purdy was better at home than he was on the road. It's actually the opposite. Purdy has the number one quarterback rating in the league on the road. He's 32nd in quarterback rating at home. So another little advantage for the Bears. It does look like the Chicago Bears will have the services of number 2 DJ Moore and number 4 DeAndre Swift. Kyle, anything that's come up for you over the past couple of days since Wednesday that piques your interest about the Bears and the Niners battle in the Bay?
Not really, man. I mean, nothing we didn't discuss already on Wednesday. I mean, ultimately, if you look at these two rosters on paper with the shape that the 49ers roster is in right now and how many injuries they've sustained, the Bears are probably a better team if you look at the on paper. But we don't know anything about Thomas Brown, Sean. It's going to be an interesting game, and I'm curious to see if this team can finally. I do think that. Do you believe that for the rest of the season these games are going to be close for the Chicago Bears, just like they have been recent weeks?
I do. I do. I think the blowout against the Patriots was an anomaly. I mean, I guess it was a blowout because we didn't score any points. I didn't really score either. It's probably the worst football game of the year for the Bears' schedule. But
yeah, so ultimately, if Caleb Williams continues to have these game-winning drives and Thomas Brown is a good coach who can finish games, ultimately the Bears should start winning, right? I mean, if not, then it's probably time to move on from Thomas Brown as well.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this team. I think the team, especially listening to DJ Moore the other day, and they asked him specific questions. What do you like about Thomas Brown? And he was like, I love his energy. I love the aura he's bringing. It seems like he's pumping some confidence and some life into this roster, and their Bears are feeding off of it. Kind of, I know the Niners got a very, very great, rich history and a very big winning culture down there in Santa Clara. But I just feel like the switching of this today, I just kind of feel like the Bears are going to win this football game. And just so we all know, my Bears bet of the day is the Bears plus 140. I'm taking them on the money line. I already have. I just kind of really like this football game for the Bears today to rally around Thomas Brown and get this victory. I haven't changed my mind. Kyle, have you? Our scores the other day, I had the Bears 24-20, and Kyle actually had 26-19. I wrote that wrong. But anything change in that, or do you still feel like you got your predictions right spot on here?
No, I mean, I think their defense will have a good game. I think ultimately they'll continue this trend of keeping teams under 21 points. I know in recent weeks they'll let that up a little bit, but let's face it, Sean. I mean, they played the Vikings, Packers, and Lions. All three teams have winning records. All three teams are good teams. The Niners just aren't that right now. And I know in years past they have been. When the season started, I think most of us expected the 49ers to either be in the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, but ultimately that's not looking like that's not going to happen this year. So I think the Bears will win by somewhere around a touchdown.
I'm with you. I'm gonna keep it a little bit closer than that, but I do feel like the Bears are gonna win. What do I have them winning by? I haven't been winning by 6, so I'm right there with you. Oh, no, I haven't winning by 4. Excuse me. So I'm right there with you. 7 would not surprise me in the least little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a ton of time this morning as we're gonna have a 4-Star Chicago Bears watch party today. So we're gonna try and get through these bets pretty quickly. Last week we were 16 out of 20. It was a fantastic week. A couple things I want to remind you guys of. When I look at this stuff and I go through all these things, I take a bunch of analytics and a bunch of commonalities from different people and kind of put them all together and kind of figure out the trends. Trends are always an outlier. They're not always a guarantee. Just remember that as we make these bets. Dustin's in here. He's got the Niners 28-27. I heard that on the bare minimum that this Thursday that Dustin, of the four of us, was the only one to pick the San Francisco 49ers at home in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium today at 325. Dustin, I hope you're wrong because I'd really like to break this 3-year losing streak on the road. But
Yeah, and if it comes down to a score like that, and ultimately the Bears blew it again, they did something stupid near the end of the game to lose the game, then it's like I said, Sean. Then let's already start the coaching search, right? If we have to deal with this stuff again, then I'll be done with Thomas Brown pretty quickly. That's the thing about Thomas Brown; he did come into an unfortunate situation because the expectations for this team are so high that I believe Thomas Brown is probably on a pretty short leash. If he comes in here and goes 1-4 for the remaining 5 games, he is probably not going to be a realistic candidate to be that coach of the Chicago Bears.
And I agree. And it looks like there's a little confidence around. So let's see what this guy has. I'm willing to give him the 5-week tryout that he has here. I know there's some buzz around that New Orleans is already interested in him. And obviously, if this 5 weeks doesn't work out for him, that buzz will probably go down. He's a hot name right now. And hopefully that will carry over into a shirt I haven't been able to wear for 6 weeks. And that's a Victory Monday shirt tomorrow on the Alice Hall Hangover. That would be amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into this. And Kyle, we've been talking about this the last couple of days. And I want to get into – I already did it, and I'm not going to pull back on it. And this is the curious case of one Braylon Allen today. I did a little more analytics looking and searching. Now, as we went in, Data Roma gave me some stats on him. Since week 5, he's averaged 3 yards per carry, which is 52nd among running backs. His yards after contact are 2.08, which is 43rd, and has 0 explosive plays. Now, game script, timing is everything.
Volume is everything.
Correct. Allen, he should see an expanded workload today. Miami is allowing the 11th most points to fantasy running backs. So we're gonna tie in bets and fantasy here because I kind of put them together. So if you have a Braylon Allen question, drop them in your lineup because as Kyle was so beautifully pointed out yesterday, 17 carries at 3 yards a carry should get him to the prop of over 51 yards. Kyle, I'm gonna say this: buyer beware. Kyron Williams, 62 yards. James Conner, 53. James Cook, 44. Josh Jacobs, 43. Alexander Madison, 19. And Ramondre Stevenson, 13. These are the running backs that have faced the Dolphins in recent and have not. Only 2 of them have eclipsed that 51-yard mark. I can't go back on this. This is one of those Cashmere Passum, buyer bewares. I do personally like Braylon Allen. What are you feeling on Braylon Allen today, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, Sean, he's just a big bruising running back. So like you said, the 3 yards per carry at 17 carries shouldn't be tough for him to do. I mean, the guy should get 3 yards on almost every carry. He's like, 230 pounds? I think
he's a big boy.
He's huge.
He's right around there.
Yeah, he's a huge guy. And, Sean, we look at this from a fantasy outlook or a betting aspect, but realistically, I mean, this is Braylon Allen. This is a huge deal for him. This is going to be his first start in the NFL. Yeah. He's a rookie, and this is his chance to shine. And I think he ultimately will end up. I actually bumped him up, Sean, to 60 yards rushing.
Okay,
that's how confident I am that he'll get. He doesn't have to be outstanding. He doesn't have to be the best player in football on Sunday to get 60 yards. I mean, it looks like Breece Hall is not going to play in this game, so he's going to get a majority of the opportunities. So I expect him fully to take advantage of that. But in the Miami, like you said, Sean, Miami is leaky on defense. They ultimately if he runs 10 times, they may stop him on 9, but Miami has that play every once in a while where they allow a 20-yard run, and then he's halfway to his prop right there.
And I'm going to put this out there. I told you this yesterday on the phone. I'm going to put one explosive play out of Braylon Allen today that will get him halfway to that prop. I do like the prop. Guys, I'm going to run the bets down the bottom. They're tight, but we're going to go over them really quick. And some of them, like Mike Evans, I got Mike Evans his prop was at 60, played a 70, got him over 4.5 receptions, things of that nature. We're going to get into that right now. I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this. We got Dustin. If Miami is getting on a scoring tear and forces Jets to throw, Allen becomes less of a threat. I agree with that. And Hall is officially out, and that was kind of one of the things that it was said. The Jets in this game, the Jets are implied had the 5th lowest scoring total of the week, so that could limit his opportunities. They're coming in as 6-point dogs. That can also force them to move away from the run. There's a lot of factors here with Braylon Allen. But I'm going to stick with you, Kyle. I'm rolling with that over 51. I like it. I already paired it with a couple of other bets this week.
You know what, Sean? And I originally after Miami ended up winning 3 games in a row, I started to think to myself, man, are the Dolphins back? It's too comfortable again. But you go back and look at the teams they've played. Besides the garbage teams like the Patriots and Raiders, the Dolphins just aren't as good of a football team as we thought they were going to be. They're just not.
Right.
So I would be blown away if the Dolphins get up really, really big in this game in the first half. So, for at least in the first half, Braylon Allen is probably going to run the ball a lot. That's my assumption. Now, maybe late in the game, like the second half of the fourth quarter, maybe then the Jets are forced to throw. But I think the Jets are going to run early and often in this game. And you know what? I think the Jets are curious as to what they have in Braylon Allen as well.
I agree. I think we're good. I'm good. I'm confident. Hey, that's why it's Cashmere Pass'em, man. It's called gambling for a reason, baby.
Sure, I'm cashing that all. I'm cashing that all day, Sean. That was one of the first bets I made this week.
Kyle and I are going to split this one because we talked about it yesterday. And I'm going to go off with my play of the day. And I think Kyle is very high on this play of the day. It's Brock Bowers over 60. I'm playing Brock Bowers to probably 70, 75. I think as of this morning, his prop was up to 67. I was lucky enough to get it at 61 yesterday. He's coming off a 140-yard, 10-reception, 1 TD game against the Chiefs, who are just being annihilated by tight ends. But here we go. We got another great matchup. The Bucs are giving up the 3rd most yards to tight ends. He's hit this in 4 of his last 5 games. The Bucs are allowing 9 yards per target to tight ends. That's 32nd in the NFL. There's another prop that I found that a couple other bettors are betting, and that is Brock Bowers over 21.5. I did not touch that. Longest reception, excuse me. I did not touch that. But at 9 yards per reception that the Bucs are averaging in tight ends, that 21. What do you think of that over 21.5, Kyle?
Yeah, Sean, I realistically, I believe he should get that, but I've just been burned so many times on longest reception that, like, the last time we did Justin Jefferson on the show, it was the longest reception over 27.5, and he had a reception for 27 yards on the dot. If we would have reached the ball out for 1 more yard, we would have hit that. So I'm just not going to touch that. But I do ultimately like Brock Bowers over 60 yards for sure. I think it's not just the tight end, Sean. Tampa Bay is giving up yards to anybody who catches the ball. So
yeah,
I think not only is Brock Bowers going to hit that, I would take the cash on this Brock Bowers over 60. I would take it on Jacoby Myers over 60 as well.
And going in, Kyle, I agree with that 100%. He's wide receiver 18 in fantasy points right now. So again, we're going to tie in fantasy with our bets here. We love the over 61. He's a wide receiver 18 in fantasy points. He's getting 25% of the target share right now. He's averaging 74.9 yards per game, 32.9% first read. Since week 8, he's averaged 8.1 targets. 3 of the last 4 games, he's been over 11 targets. And here we go back in the fantasy. He's playing a Bucs secondary that's averaging 29.87 fantasy points to wide receivers. That's 10th in the league. I am with you all day, Kyle. I'm loving me some Jacoby Myers. So we got 120 yards. Did you have another one in that game, or was I mistaken?
Yeah, I mean, Sean, you already said it. You had it rolling on the bottom of the screen there. I'm also going to take Mike Evans over 60 as well. So it's actually a 3 parlay of 60 each. So I'm going to take Jacoby Myers over 60, Brock Bowers over 60, and Mike Evans over 60. And you know what? Mike Evans is actually the one that scares me the most because fantasy purposes this year, the Raiders have actually been pretty good against the wide receivers. So, but I still think, I think Mike Evans is just one of those guys that pretty much every week in and week out, he's going to get his numbers. He's just such a big body. You saw that touchdown catch last week. I mean, Baker Mayfield just threw that up in the air, and Mike Evans just grabbed it with one arm and took it down. So I do ultimately like Mike Evans over 60. I think I moved that down though. I think right now I think they had him at like 67 last time I looked. Maybe they changed it again, but
Well, I did take him. I did take Mike Evans to 60. I would play it to 70. My three-teamer that I put in this game plus 252, 50 to win 176 was Mike Evans over 60, Mike Evans over 4.5 receiving yard or receptions, excuse me, and Brock Bowers over 60 receiving yards. I got that at plus 252, 50 to win 176. I'm really liking those three, and I think that this could be a nice game where there's some points scored.
Well, Sean, we got basically the same exact odds. I did Brock Bowers over 60, Jacoby Myers over 60, Mike Evans over 60, and I bet 50 won 178. So $2 more than you.
And I will tell you this, to Dustin's point here about drafting Bowers, I'm going to tell you this right now, guys. If people aren't paying attention, Brock Bowers is not only having one of the best rookie tight end seasons ever in the history of the NFL, he's having one of the best tight end seasons ever in the history as a rookie in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's too bad. It's too bad Dustin and Vernon couldn't be on the show today because Sean and I wanted the Bears to draft Brock Bowers at number 9, and Dustin and Vernon wanted Rome Odunze. So it's going to be interesting to see how their careers play out in the coming years here. I think Brock Bowers is going to be a very special player for a very long time.
I was drooling over him in this draft. I wanted him.
Hey, Sean, he's not a tight end. He's a weapon.
He's not.
He could play any position on the field.
Dude, the guy had like 10 rushing touchdowns in college, dude. He's a running back, too.
And I think you're going to, as much as he's been used this season, Sean, I think you're only going to see that role expand the more the season goes on here and going into next year as well. The Raiders just need a quarter. If the Raiders got a good quarterback, man, Brock Bowers would be amazing.
Would be. And you know what? They're going to draft one. And we know one thing about rookie quarterbacks. They love their tight ends. And
but it is the Raiders, Sean. So. Who are they going to draft? It's probably be Shadir Sanders or somebody like that. His fantasy will take a hit for sure. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen because he's on my fantasy team as well.
I'm going to move on to another one here really quick. And we got the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I love revenge matches. I can't talk this morning. I love revenge matches, and Calvin Ridley has it written all over his face. I know Nick Westbrook has been on fire for Tennessee over the past couple of weeks, but this prop right now for Calvin Ridley sitting at 59, I think it's jumped up to 63. I would take it over. I would push that past 65. He's been over this number 6 of the last 7 weeks. He takes on Jacksonville, who's 32nd against the pass. Since Levis has returned in his last 4 weeks, he's thrown for 960 yards, 240 yards a game, 7 passing touchdowns. I love Ridley in this possible smash spot. I'm going to call it a smash spot in a revenge match versus former team. I also did another little parlay here. Calvin Ridley, I got him at 59 yards when it first came out on Thursday, over 4.5 receptions, and I took Will Levis over 208 passing yards. Kyle, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd cash them all. Obviously, the Will Levis, I would definitely cash him because I got him at 212 and I still took the over. So you got him at 4 yards less but ultimately, Sean, the Jacksonville Jaguars are allowing every quarterback in the NFL to throw over 200 yards. So I would be blown away if Will Levis somehow does not hit that passing prop. If he doesn't, then they need to bench him again. Calvin Ridley, 100%, Sean. I got him at 60. I think he actually ultimately moved up to like 63. I would play him up to 65 for sure. And then I even added to that game, Sean. I got Tony Pollard at 75 rushing and receiving combined, 75.
I like that.
And then, Sean, I got plus odds for Travis Etienne. I don't know what it is now. This was probably on Thursday when I did this, but plus odds for Travis Etienne over 26 rushing yards.
What?
Yes.
Oh, my God. I can't believe I missed that. I would have bet the hell out of that.
I don't know what he's at now.
I'm going to look right now. Because I would have smashed that, dude. I completely missed that.
Yeah, that gave me the best odds of my bet. So that 4-leg parlay, Will Levis over 212, Calvin Ridley over 60, Tony Pollard over 75 rushing plus receiving, and Travis Etienne over 25 rushing. I bet 50 to win 250.
He is at 38.5 now, minus 120. So that's a steal, man.
Yeah, 20. I think it was 26 or 27. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome, dude. Man, I'm pissed at myself for missing that one, diving into these games. Gosh darn it.
I forgot to text you, man. When I saw that earlier this week, I was like, what? Is Travis Etienne hurt or something?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go back to the well because we've played this for 6 straight weeks, as I've written it down now. Since Jaylen Warren has been back, his prop for rushing and receiving has stayed around in between 50 and 55 yards. He had 55 yards 2 weeks ago and a touchdown against this same Cleveland Browns team. His prop for rushing and receiving opened at 56.5. I grabbed it, bunched on it. Warren has scored double-digit fantasy points in 3 consecutive games. He's consistently involved in this passing game, and he's seeing at least 4 targets in the last 6 outings. Trust him. Ride the trend. He's going to be involved in this passing game. And I will give you one other one if you guys are all into these anytime touchdown props. The highest odds for an anytime touchdown this week is his counterpart, Najee Harris. I did not bet him, but he has the highest odds for an anytime touchdown scorer, or the best odds, of any touchdown scorer this week in the NFL. And I think he's even higher than Barkley, which is crazy to me because Barkley was minus 270. So, and maybe those odds flipped. I can look right now. But I'm not touching Najee Harris. I'm not a fan of Najee Harris.
I don't ever touch anything. Najee Harris is a very, very inconsistent player in the NFL, and there's a reason that the Steelers did not pick up his 5th-year option. I don't think the Steelers are super impressed with him, and I'm not either. He's a very inconsistent player, and he's inconsistent in fantasy, and he's probably inconsistent in prop betting as well. That's why I'm not going to touch that. I ultimately do like Jaylen Warren over the 56, rushing and receiving for sure.
We got Dustin throwing up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I love it.
Where's Dustin at? He's sitting here commenting.
Hey guys, we're gonna go back. We got one more smash spot. I love this smash spot this week for one of our counterparts in the NFC North, Mr. Jordan Addison. His numbers coming in at over 46 receiving yards. He's been over this number 3 straight weeks. In the last 3 weeks, he's received 23 targets. He's had 277 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 92 yards a week. This week, Addison faces the Falcons, a defense that's been more than happy to give up points, fantasy, and yards. 2 wide receivers. They permitted the 8th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers and tied for the 3rd most receiving touchdowns given up with the position. If you guys are really feeling this, you can jump on Justin Jefferson. That's fine. I just really love these lower numbers, and I'm kind of seeing Jordan Addison as coming on very, very strong here down the road. What do you think about Jordan Addison in this over 46 against this poor Atlanta Falcons secondary?
Yeah, Sean, I moved it down a little bit. I moved it down to 40, so it didn't really affect the odds all that much. But I have a 3-leg parlay in that game. I have Drake London over 60 receiving yards. And as you guys know, the Vikings secondary is not much better than the Falcons. So I have Drake London over 60 receiving yards, Justin Jefferson over 70 receiving yards, which I bumped that down as well because I think where is he at, Sean? Where did Justin Jefferson, where do they have his over-under at? I think it's like 78.
Yeah, you know what? I was looking at anytime touchdowns, and yes, Dustin, really quick, Dustin, it is 110. He does still have the best odds to score a touchdown this week. And Justin Jefferson is at – go ahead, Kyle. I got you.
Well, I moved him down to 70, and then I took Jordan Addison over 40. So I agree with the Jordan. I think Jordan Addison's going to hit that pretty easily. Jordan Addison's, we've talked about this a couple weeks ago. He's a very good receiver. He's one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL because he's playing next to Justin Jefferson every week. But
what did you get Jefferson at?
I moved him down to 70, but when I did move him down, it wasn't much. So if you're saying woo, that means he went up.
He's at 86.
Yeah. So I think he was at 78 when I moved him down to 70. So it really didn't change much.
And I hate to say this, and these are the things that I hate when gambling, which scares me, is Jordan Addison was at 46. He moved down a half a yard down to 45.5. So it moved down a half a point. I guess that's not too scary.
Well, Sean, that just means that a lot of people are betting. A lot of people are betting the under. But I mean, I don't know about you, Sean, but this you're talking about in a dome. These two teams have terrible secondaries. I think this is going to become a shootout pretty quickly in Minnesota today.
Yeah. And I will give you another one. We got Brando checking in, and he likes the Kelvin Austin over 19.5 receiving yards. Brando, I like that too. I love Calvin Austin. I thought he was going to have a much better season this year, be a little bit more involved in this offense, but he hasn't been. But he did light up the Browns 2 weeks ago and had a nice touchdown catching Kyle, actually, we were talking on his way to work, and he goes to me, he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if Calvin Austin scores a touchdown today. And sure enough, he did. So,
yeah, he's underrated, Sean, and he has come on as of late. He's getting better as the season goes on. He's a young guy. That's what you like to see. I think ultimately, I didn't know he was at 19.5. I would definitely take Calvin Austin over 19. The only thing that scares me a little bit is Sean, am I mistaken? Is Calvin Austin come in like questionable?
I'll tell you right now. Hold on, let me look at these depth charts.
I'm pretty sure he missed a couple practices this week, so I don't.
Pittsburgh, where we got?
No, he has no injury designation.
No injury designation. He is good to go.
Oh, and it was a concussion. So if you clear concussion protocol, then yeah, he's going to have no limitations whatsoever at all. So that's good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you another one. This is going to be a big one. And this isn't one, I don't normally like to do these big, humongous numbers like this, but I feel like this is a smash spot, and I'm going to flip this because I'm going to go back to the other running back in this particular game. Oh, excuse me. I like Alvin Kamara over 100 rushing yards. It's minus 310. If you take him up to 120, if you take him up to 125, it drops to minus 125. But you also have 125 rushing and receiving. You can play that, and you got better odds. The Saints came out today and said they're not going to abandon the Taysom Hill package with him out, which means he's going to be involved in that package. He's going to get used early and often against the Giants. They're running out of people here. He seems to be over 100 yards almost every game because of volume.
Rushing and receiving, not rushing.
Correct.
Not rushing.
Correct. Rushing and receiving, correct. And I'm going to stay away from the rushing prop. They have his rushing prop at 100 minus 310, which means it's 3-1 that he's going to hit that.
They're making Alvin Kamara is a special player. He gets a lot of attention and he's really good in fantasy, but they are making his props way too high. Alvin Kamara, if you go look at his rushing numbers on the season, Sean, very rarely does Alvin Kamara get to 100 yards rushing. Rushing and receiving, he's great, but he's actually probably at this point in the season, he's probably more impactful in the passing game than he is in the running game. And I'm not saying that he's not a good running back because their offensive line has been very inconsistent, but ultimately I've bet him a couple times on the rushing prop, and he hasn't hit it either time that I've bet him. So I'm out on his rushing yards. I'll continue to bet him on rushing and receiving.
Sure. I agree with you. I'm sticking to the rushing and receiving as well. What's going on, Ant Mass? Thanks for checking in, buddy. Appreciate you spending a little time with us on this Sunday morning. We have I'm going to go stick in that game. And
What's up, Ant Mass?
I like Tyrone Tracy over 58.5 receiving yards for the second week.
Receiving?
No, rushing yards. Over 58 rushing yards. He played 73% of the snaps last week, which is a great sign for his usage. The Giants need to get him involved early. The Saints are 31st against the run. Excuse me, I read that wrong. The Saints are 31st in the NFL in opponent rush success rate and opponent rush EPA. They're allowing 5.1 yards per attempt. So if Tracy does get this volume, he could have this over by halftime. And we're going to hope that just in case the Saints get down in this football game or the Giants get down in this football game and it takes away from his ability. And I just want to see, I'm just going to double check on that and see if this has moved at all. Because that 58 for him against this 31st ranked rush defense does seem a little low. Up to the minute.
Sean, he's at 64.5.
He's at 64.5. I would still play 64.5. I still like that number. Personally, that's just me. That's why we're cashing or passing. You can either take that or move that on. I have one more, and Kyle and I think I have a couple more, but I think Kyle and I are going to disagree on this one. I'm going to take you back to Santa Clara. I forgot when I said my best bet was the Bears plus 140. I do like that. Trent Williams is out, and last week Kittle was used to chip block a lot. Okay. Kittle, I still do like Kittle over 55 receiving yards. He's been over this number 6 of his last 7 games. Obviously, the one he wasn't was last week. He's second in targets on the team. He's tied for most receiving yards identically with who's leading the team? Jennings, maybe. I can't remember who's leading the team, but he's tied identically for the most receiving yards on the team. He leads the team with 8 touchdowns. 5 of the last 8 tight ends against the Bears have torched the Bears. Laporta only had like 13 receiving yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. Hockenson went with 7 for 114. Hooper and Henry 4 for 75. Ertz 7 for 77. And Ingram 10 for 102. Kyle, I know you're not big on this particular one, but I like the over 55. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, at 55, I would take it. The problem with they're just the Niner or the Bears defense is so not Dustin. The Bears defense is just so up and down. And to be honest with you, Sean, with the recent coaching change, I just don't know what to expect from the Chicago Bears defense. I mean, I'll give Matt Eberflus is not a good coach. I'll say it time. I'll die on that hill, but he wasn't the worst defensive coordinator in the NFL. So, do the Bears take a step back on defense? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. What do you think, Dustin?
What do you think? Do you think George Kittle gets that over 55 this week, brother?
I would not bet on that, guys.
You would not bet on
that. I'm passing as well, man.
Give me a reason why. Give me a reason why, Dustin.
I like the Bears linebackers better than other people, man. I like the Bears secondary. I don't know that Kittle's going to be a guy that gets off. I'd be more confident in him getting a touchdown than him breaking the yardage, to be quite honest. He's a good red zone threat. But yeah, that's just not one I would play. Honestly, man, I have a hard time betting anything in this Bears-Niners game. I might bet the Bears with the plus odds, and just in the straight up in the game. But it's gonna be a crazy game, I think.
Well, yeah. And on top of that, guys, I don't know if you saw last week or not, but you saw the interview of George Kittle after the game. He caught a pass on the first play of the game, and then he ran six more routes for the rest of the game because he was trying to. I think with the loss of Trent Williams, they basically he's a great blocker. Yeah, they basically had him as a swing tackle, which George Kittle is capable of doing. He's a really good blocker for tight end.
I have to go back and look. I'm not sure if I took the bet. I just do. I kind of still like it, so I'm gonna go cash him. You guys are gonna go pass him. So I like it. I like it. A little dissension in the ranks. I love it. Kyle, do you have any more? I have a couple more. Do you have any?
Keep going, Sean. Keep going. You're doing good.
Let me give one that I got in terms of like a 4-team parlay.
Bring it on, Dustin.
I hit mine last week. I teased a bunch of teams down, and that one hits. So I'm gonna try my luck again. I mean, I'm just going money line. I'm not teasing much on this. I got money line on the Dolphins. I paired that with money line on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I'm a little nervous about because last week they just barely covered what I teased them down to, but they did end up covering. It was a close game.
Well, and they are better at home. The Buccaneers are much better at home.
I did tease the Eagles down to 6.5. So they just got to win by a touchdown, and I got that. And then I got the Steelers money line. So I'm pairing the Steelers money line with the Dolphins and the Bucks, and then I teased the Eagles down to -6.5. Hey. And that got me like plus 220 odds. You can double your money basically. So it's pretty sweet.
Dustin, man, me and Dustin are on the same wavelength here. I took the Bucks money line. I took the Steelers money line. I took the Falcons, but I dumbed it up to 8.5. And then I took the Bears on the money line, and I took the Cardinals -2.5. So
I like to split it up between the noon games and the late afternoon games. So like I'm gonna make some bets when I'm over at your place on the 3:00 games. I try to pair those together so I can get my instant gratification. I'm not waiting on bets.
I love it.
But I like the Falcons too, man. I actually took them just straight money line, man. I didn't even take the plus odds. I took them straight money line in a bet. I mean, that's a long shot, but you got that revenge game factor with.
Hold on, You bet them without any points? You just took a money line plus 240 or whatever?
I mean, I like the odds on it, man. It's a long shot. I know that. I like it.
We'll all be sitting here rooting for the Atlanta Falcons together, so.
Hey, man, I also took a bet where I took the Vikings on the money line, too, so I hedged my bets.
Nice, Dustin. I like all those. The only one that makes me a little weary is the Cardinals -2.5. That last Seahawks Cardinals game was brutal to watch. It was absolutely brutal.
Well, I'm going to give
Amass joined us, by the way. Let's shout him out real quick.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. I stopped watching to jump in. So
no worries.
Hey, Kyle, I'm going to tell you why I took the Cardinals. In their last matchup versus Seattle in Week 12, the Cardinals defense had 5 sacks, forced a fumble, interception, allowed 285 yards in the game. They almost won. Seattle's offense has been very generous. They're allowing the second most points, and this is time back in fantasy, second most points to fantasy points allowed over the past 5 weeks, 12 worst first to EPA. DK and Kenneth Walker. Well, Kenneth Walker's out. DK carries in no injury designation into the game. Also, guys, Arizona's going to finish up against the Patriots, Panthers, and Rams. So if you guys are desperate for defense, especially this week against Seattle, I think it's going to be a low-scoring football game. Kyle, I plugged him in against you in Brandon's league. So not that I have much of a shot in that league because everyone that I have is out.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you guys, that game 2 weeks ago between the Cardinals and Seahawks was low scoring, brutal.
Cardinals scored like 6 points, didn't they?
Yeah, wouldn't it would surprise you at all if this game is like 24-27? I mean, that's just these divisional games. That's kind of how they go.
Sean, that league you referenced, you're referring to the one where I'm ahead in points by like 350 over the next person, right? That's the one you're talking about.
Yep, and I have 3 wins, so it's not been a good year.
I don't like that game at all, guys. The Cardinals, that's a stay away game for me. Cardinals Seahawks. I have no fucking idea.
I didn't bet it.
I need it for fantasy. I got
sure.
Kyler, I got Marvin Harrison, and I got Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I'll be looking for fantasy points hanging around.
I would. What's Jackson Smith and Jigba's over under it?
I like JSN, yeah.
Yeah. What's his
JSN? It was pretty high, so I stayed away from it.
I mean, the NFL's
like,
starting to adjust. He's been good for a long time now.
But if you bring that down, you could still probably get decent odds. If he's at 65, bring it down to 50. You can feel pretty confident with that. Probably decent odds.
JSN is at 67 right now, and that's been about where he's been. It's right on the borderline there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Marvin Harrison at 51 for sure. Definitely. I would take the over on Marvin Harrison.
All right, we got a couple more before we get out of here. We're going to flip to Monday night really quick. And guys, I text this out to the 4 Stars group, and I would jump on this before this gets way a little bit too much higher. I got Chase Brown over 73 yards. The Cowboys are just getting gashed on the ground. They're 31st against the run, allowing 147 yards per game. But at home, ladies and gentlemen, they're allowing 182 yards a game. Brown, weeks 9 through 13, has dominated the touches. 96 touches, third in the NFL. 22 receptions, second in the NFL. He's been RB2 at 21.9 fantasy points per game. The Cowboys defense allowing 23 fantasy points to running backs, fourth, and allowing 1.5 touchdowns per game, which is second in the league. Guys, fire up Chase Brown with confidence. Go over, smash a touchdown, parlay the hell out of that, and even throw the Bengals to win that football game, because I'm going to tell you, I highly doubt Cooper Rush is going to win that football game.
Sean, can you parlay that with Mike McCarthy getting fired?
Here, and I'll tell you this, I'll throw in one more. The Cincinnati Bengals, if you want to get really crazy, are getting gashed on defense as well. Throw Rico Dowell over his 60 rushing yards. The guy's been on fire the last 3 weeks. He's the lead back. He's handling all the carries. I think this is going to be a nice spot where he can get 60 carries. Again, what does he need? He needs 18 carries at 3.5 yards per carry to hit the prop. I think that's a good possibility against the Bengals defense that's pretty poor. So
I love Chase Brown. That's a good bet.
How disappointing is it that what Cooper Rush has done to CeeDee Lamb? He before Cooper Rush came to town, he was always in my bet on his own.
Isn't Lamb still leading the league in receptions though?
Probably, but the problem is now they're all like 2 yards. Cooper Rush sucks.
But Lamb is still
the guys, so real quick. At River Street Tavern yesterday, there was a customer sitting at the bar. He's a Cowboys fan. He was like, Kyle, do you not agree that Cooper Rush ultimately is probably better than Caleb Williams? I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life, man.
Cooper Rush
should be allowed to go back to River Street.
Yes, dude. I swear to God,
has he watched Cooper Rush? That guy's awful.
He's like at this point in Caleb Williams' career. Yeah, he's like at this point in Caleb Williams' career, I'd say Cooper Rush is better. I'm like, are you insane? Are you insane, dude? Do you watch football?
The Cowboys fans have this weird thing going on where they still think they can make the playoffs. It's very strange. Like they have hope all of a sudden again. They've won a couple and they think they got a fucking chance. I don't see it. But yeah, Cooper Rush is awful. He's not good. No, he had a good game against the Giants. He was
PT57 wants to know if we cut you off and you're in a cab, Dustin.
No, he asked if you cut him off and call him a cab. The guy in the bar. Yeah,
sorry.
Out of there. I'm in my truck, guys. I just got out the gym. I wanted to give my 4 team again. Dolphins money line, Steelers money line, Buccaneers money line, and then I brought the Eagles down to -6.5. I got to get going, guys. I just wanted to jump in. Sorry to interrupt, but
no worries, man. You're always welcome.
Thanks for jumping in, dude.
I got 3 more, and we're done.
I'll see y'all in a bit.
Yeah, drive safe, man.
Yeah, man.
I got 3 more, Kyle. I'm gonna fire up a guy that you hate and don't trust at all. I'm gonna fire me up. Pat Fryer moves over 29 receiving yards. Cleveland surrendered time back in fantasy, 11 points per week to tight ends. It's the 10th most in the NFL. They've given up 20 or more fantasy points to tight ends in 2 of their past 5 matchups, allowing over 90 yards and a touchdown in each of those matchups. You're also looking at a banged up George Pickens, who I
don't hate Pat Freiermuth, and I like that. I'll take that. I would take that over all day. I just don't like him in fantasy.
Okay, that's fair.
Pat Freiermuth would not be on any of my fantasy teams ever. And people are like, "Well, he has a game with 70 yards and a touchdown." I'm like, "Yeah," followed by 2 games with 2 catches for 4 yards. Sean, you know me. You know I hate boomer bust, like Gabe Davis, boomer bust players more than anybody in the world. I'd rather have somebody who's consistently over a guy who can get you 40 or a guy who gets you 0, like Gabe Davis. I'd rather have a guy that consistently gets you 10 than a guy like Gabe Davis. I can't, that is my fantasy pet peeve. I do not like guys who decide not to show up on any given week, and Pat Freiermuth is one of those guys.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up. We got anytime touchdown scores and the long shots of the week. And guys, I know all season I've been giving long shots of obscure players and people that we haven't heard of, and they've worked out pretty decently throughout the season. We hit Cedric Tillman, and a couple other tight ends throughout the season. So we're gonna go to the well here, and I'm gonna take a well-known wide receiver to bounce back. And as the inactives and actives came out, it did come out that Keon Coleman will not be in this game. As they stated yesterday, it looked like he was going to play. It looks like he is going to be inactive, but that would still leave Khalil Shakur, Curtis Samuel, and our long shot of the week, which is going to be Amari Cooper over 37 receiving yards. I think it's moved up to 39 as I'm looking at it right now. The Rams have surrendered 27.8 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. That's 12th most in the NFL this year. They've given up at least 1 touchdown to wide receivers in 83.8% of their games. Furthermore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 10.6 fantasy points and a touchdown against the Rams this week. I think this is – I've been hearing a lot of people saying that the Bills are looking ahead to the big tilt in Motown next week against Detroit, and this could be a trap game where the Rams sneak up on the Bills and take the Bills down. Guys, I'm not buying into that. I think the Bills are focused. They're in the AFC. They're in a tight AFC battle. I think it's going to be a fun football game, but I think Amari Cooper bounces back, hits that over 37, over 39 receiving yards in this game as he's finally back. He's finally healthy. Looks like that wrist has finally healed up for him. And then we got Dustin. Cooper's going to go off. I love you, Dustin. He better. I have to start him. And my last long shot. Actually, Kyle, before we go to the last one, what do you think of Cooper in this possible long shot smash spot against the Rams this week?
Well, Sean, I would have no problem taking it, but it definitely is a long shot because Amari Cooper this year has just not been good. I don't know if it's just the situation because obviously, he started the season on the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson was not playing well. I don't think any of the receivers there were hitting any of their overs or doing good in fantasy. But even since he's got traded to the Bills, he still has not really had that breakout game. This is the perfect chance for him to do so against this team. I think ultimately Amari Cooper could absolutely explode this week, but it is a long shot for sure. No doubt about it. I would say cash it though. I would have no problem taking Amari Cooper over 37 receiving yards or 39, whatever it's at now. If he can't get that, then they better be begging for Keon Coleman to get back.
Well, I'll tell you this: Kyle and I this morning have spent a lot of time in this Tampa Vegas game, and we're going to spend our last moments here. Oh my God, Cade Otton has dropped from 44 to 41.5 receiving yards. I like that even better. I know he struggled since his Week 11 bye, but last Sunday against Carolina, he finished second in targets behind Mike Evans. Week 8, Kelsey went 10 for 90 and a touchdown. Week 9, Gesicki 5 for 100, 2 touchdowns. Week 11, Jonnu Smith 6 for 102, 2 touchdowns. Last week, Kelsey and Gray had 19 targets, 11 catches, $126. Since Week 8, Vegas has given up 417 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. That's 83.4 yards a game, and at least 1 touchdown to tight ends. And we take 1 week out of there because they had a Week 10 bye. So that's 1 less week to pump up those numbers. Kyle, I know you're having a lot of problems because we talked about this. I love that this has dropped even 3 more yards. What are your thoughts? You cash in or passing on Cade Otton this week?
Well, Sean, I have no problem taking Cade Otton over the 41. I wouldn't parlay it with anything. Cade Otton kind of scares me because if you look at the last 3 weeks, Cade Otton has just not been. There's targets just aren't getting there. That's the problem. I know that he's targeted a lot, and he seems to be kind of a security blanket for Baker Mayfield, but they're just not getting there. I mean, right now, with Mike Evans being really the only other threat in the receiving game, I feel like people have started to catch on to Cade Otton. He's starting to get more coverage. But, I mean, like those numbers you just put out there are astonishing against – I mean, if that's what Oakland's been given or Vegas has been given up, then, yeah, I would probably have no problem doing that.
I feel good. It's a long and hard on them. And remember, guys, all I do is look at the analytics, look at the trends, give you guys the trends. Anyone that puts it together can just see, hey man, if this has been happening 4 or 5 weeks, you just kind of ride it. I'm hoping for
real quick. Remember, guys, if you're going to start getting into betting on football or betting, always try to get to these games as early as you possibly can.
Yes.
As soon as these over-unders come up, because generally once the money starts coming in, Vegas will start to adjust the odds. And those numbers will start to go up, which means that the money is coming in on the Cade Otton under 44. That's why they moved him down to 41. But yeah, I have no problem taking that. Sean, real quick, I just have one more bet that.
Yeah, run away.
For me, this one's a slam dunk. Obviously, take the Eagles money line. The Eagles are playing the Panthers. I also have Saquon Barkley's an anytime touchdown score and over 125 rushing plus receiving yards. And you guys, honestly, there was a small part of me that wanted to pump that up to 200. I mean, what did Bucky Irving get cumulatively against Carolina last week, Sean? I mean, I know he had
148, I think.
He had 152 rushing. He caught the ball as well.
Yeah, I thought he had a $148. He had 180 total yards.
180. So
yeah, he had 180 yards.
Now they got Saquon at 125. I'm taking that over for sure. I listen, as much as I like Bucky Irving, he is not Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is about to play the worst rush defense in the NFL.
And guys, really quick before we get out of here, I did my anytime touchdown scores. I'm not like super happy with any of them, but I took Devon Achane, Barkley, Michael Evans, and Alvin Kamara. The key here is I don't believe Alvin Kamara scored a touchdown in about 6 or 7 weeks now. And I figure against the Giants, no Taysom Hill. But one of the things I like is because they usually, and if you've been paying attention to the Saints the last few weeks, is when they got in the goal line, they started going away from Kamara and giving everything to Taysom Hill. Well, guess what? There is no more Taysom Hill. So the only other thing that really bothers me about Kamara is I'm not sure if the Saints this week are going to try out Kendre Miller. He is back, and apparently they're going to use him this week. So that's the only thing that scares me. But I do like Alvin Kamara. I put him in as an anytime touchdown scorer. I'm sure he's the one that'll burn me, seeing that he hasn't got in the end zone in the last bunch of weeks. But I still roll with it. I feel like he's due, and Justin Jefferson could be another one that's due. But for me, Actually, Alvin Kamara has not scored a touchdown since week 6. Yikes. He has not had a receiving touchdown since week 2. But I like him this week. I roll with it. That's why it's gambling. Hey, everybody. I want to say one more time, thanks for spending a little time with us. Thomas Brown seeks our first road win in Santa Clara since December 26th of 2021 on a Sunday. Again, that last win was 25-24 in Seattle. That was 1,076 days ago. For the love of everything holy, can we please get a road victory today? It would be sweet. I want to say to everybody again, thank you for joining us. Ant Mass, Dustin for hopping on really quick, Brando for hopping in the chat, throwing PT57, Darius,
Breaking news, Bruce,
Breaking
Jason.
news, Bruce.
Appreciate you guys.
We really, really do. Having a cup of coffee, going over some fantasy and some prop bets. Let's go get them, man. We were 16 for 20 last week on this show. Let's hope that we can keep that momentum going. And
Sean, did you put them on Facebook?
I did not have a chance to put them on Facebook. I've been pretty busy, and I'm about to sit down and go make some appetizers right now and breakfast for my family before you all head over and watch some football. And I got obviously Rock Chalk Jayhawk and the Missouri Tigers pouncing off in about an hour and 15 minutes. We got to watch the oldest rivalry in sports that dates back to 1865 to the Border War. Let's go Jayhawks. Let's go Bears. Let's have a wonderful Sunday. Everybody out there, y'all have a wonderful Sunday. Bear down. Kyle, thanks for joining me. Dustin, thanks for jumping in. Until tomorrow, hopefully on the House Hell Hangover when we're talking about a Victory Monday. Bear down, everybody.
Yeah, bear down, guys. Sean, do you want to play your little clip before you get out here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my Lord. I almost committed a sin.
Anything you want to get out there before you wrap up?
Shit, fuck Green Bay.
All right. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. I almost forgot about that. Holy Lord. You know what? Maybe we should put that as our outro.
Yeah. Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up? Yeah.
Until next week, everybody. We'll see y'all. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy. It's gonna be beautiful outside in the Chicagoland area. Peace.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Bear down.
Bear down.